Good afternoon, everyone. So, for those of you who just tuned in my blog, my name is Arnel Madrazo. In that, I'm a faculty of Far Eastern University. But sometimes you see me De La Salle. It's because I'm an alumnus of De La Salle University also. So, I'd like to welcome you all. So today, or this afternoon, I'm here with my FU students. They're graduating students who are enrolled in my thesis. So I am quite excited to love this because I've been teaching about paraphrasing. In fact, the very foundation of research is actually citation and referencing. So, well, in FEU, we are aware that plagiarism is actually a very serious offense. In fact, we are here now to actually learn something about paraphrasing. Right? But we really have to emphasize paraphrasing because I think it's where you will have to show your intellectual honesty. So I think very important would be your knowledge about paraphrasing. And so the first part is lecture, and then the second you will be paraphrasing or summarizing. So I have here another reference other than this lecture. Right? So let's start. Okay, so paraphrasing is basically stating the author's ideas in your own words. In fact, that's according to Sternglass in Planta et al. That paraphrasing is stating of ideas from the texts in note taker's own words. Like for example, in this case, look at the note taker's own words. So that is in quotation. So why is that phrase in quotation? Why? Exact same words coming from the author. But then in the introductory phrases would be in my own words already. But then, I need to quote because I just lifted that exact line verbatim from the author, right? Now, paraphrasing is crazy writing or summarizing. For some experts, they would think that paraphrasing is just similar with summarizing. But later on, you would know that there's a difference. But for me, if you'd ask me, it's just the same when you summarize, you paraphrase. But what's the distinction? So, for Bell, paraphrasing is comprehensive objective brief or COB. Or arguments, 1990, would call it KISS or keep it short and simple. Okay, now, in any paragraph, there would always be main idea, right? So you call that topic sentence. In any paragraph, given paragraph, there would always be main idea. And that in summarizing or paraphrasing, it's imperative that you should know how to identify the main idea. So sometimes you can find it in the beginning, middle, or end. And then after the main idea, what do you have when you read? Main idea, then followed by supporting details. Okay, so here's an example. Okay, silent reading. Okay, anyone who would like to read the paragraph? Yes.
Statistical method shows the fact in the light of the ideal average but does not give us a picture of the empirical reality. reflecting an indisputable aspect of reality, it can falsify the actual truth in the most misleading way. This is particularly true of theories which are based on statistics. The distinctive thing about real facts, however, is their individuality, not to put too fine a point. A point on it, one could say that a real picture consists of nothing but exceptions to the rule, and that in consequence, absolute reality has predominantly the character of irregularity.
So that's exact. It's in quotation, it's in page number. You include the page number because it's in quotation. Now this is quite difficult to did you understand the paragraph? Quite difficult, right? So quite in terms of scholarly level, quite difficult. But let's go back. Let's try to process this. What's the paragraph all about? So it's important you try to look into what's the main idea. What is this about? Yes.
That one can also falsify the actual truth when
By
gathering
using
data. By using
statistics.
yeah.
But okay, is it really the main idea?
Yes.
Or is it more or less answering? More or less giving you details of it? So what is the paragraph all about? Talks about what?
Misleading information.
What is it about? So when that's the question, you look for the main idea. So take time, no? Take time to process. So in research, you really have to take time to read. Do you understand? Is it normal to read text that you don't understand? It is normal. But what do you do? If you don't understand, you have to reread. So let's try to read. Anna. Just in your own words. In your own words. What does this paragraph talk about? Okay, statistical method can be misleading. Why? So when you ask the question why, then you go to the details of it. But more or less, that's the main idea. That statistical methods, in fact, can be misleading. It can somehow hypothesize on generalizability by getting the mean or average, but then does it talk about the individuality or individual reality? I think that's the point. It can be misleading, right? So good point. Let's proceed. Let's try to see. Okay. Misleading because, right, this is the explicit thesis. The statistical method shows the facts in the light of the ideal average, but does not give us a picture of their empirical reality. That's the thesis statement, main idea. But then under thesis statement, you would see major supporting. For example, the distinctive thing about the real facts, however, is their individuality. Now, why does the average not give us a picture of empirical reality? So, the major supporting answers a very specific question, right? Now, an example of Precis writing, Precis is summarizing. So this is an example of summarizing. So this is one way of, in fact, don't copy this lecture anymore because I already uploaded this in our yeah. Did you check on this? It's already there uploaded. Since real facts are based on singular and unique statistical data, this misrepresents reality by showing an ideal average that ignores everything else. So somehow this is already stated in the Precis writer points of view. or point of view. No? So it's already paraphrased. Because praise writing is in a way stating your ideas in your own words. Now, another way of summarizing this, in Jung's view, to analyze reality by statistics is to mislead one into thinking that what is true about reality depends on collective rather than specific forms of behavior, which are also part of larger reality. So this is an example of summarizing. Now, paraphrase versus praise writing. So what's the difference? In paraphrase, you follow the source point by point, including not only the central idea, but also all its supporting idea. So in terms of length, if you have 5 sentences in a paragraph, when you paraphrase, more or less you also come up with 5 sentences in terms of the main idea, in terms of the ideas actually phrased out, wherein you follow the original idea, even if it's expressed or written in your own words. Makes the understanding of text less difficult by breaking down the information into manageable units. It answers a specific question about the source text, which makes it a convenient tool for explaining and clarifying crucial information. Now, what's the difference? In summarizing, it's brief, while in paraphrasing, it can be following exactly the length of the original text. But what students do in research would be more on summarizing, because you will be reading 20 sources, right? So you need to try to decide what ideas to include and what not. So normally, I observe that some students would turn it into chop suey. You know, it's like you'll get one idea here, then you get another idea, then try to mix it together, and it becomes chop suey. It does not support really what you're trying to problematize. So contextualize. So you really have to contextualize what you're reading. In fact, the activity today, summarizing, you will summarize an article, but try to connect it with your thesis statement, right? With the topic that you've chosen. So, now, another example. This one. Okay.
The process of reinterpretation is partial and the best half conscious. One rectifies the past where one has to, leaving untouched what one can incorporate into one's present self-image. In these continuous modifications and adjustments in one's biographical table are rarely integrated in a clear, consistent definition of one's self.
Okay. So minor. Okay. So did you understand? Alright, so this is kind of deep, right? So what is this trying to tell us? So when you encounter text like this, since you're AB English, still you try to really understand. No? Part of research is really critical thinking because you read. You should have the reading skills expected of college students for you to process difficult scholarly articles like this. So for example, in this case, what exactly are we talking about here? This is more of psychology, right? Talks about personality, right? So how do we paraphrase this? Okay, sample. So, in the book Invitation to Sociology, it is explained how our ideas about ourselves result in the ways in which we interpret our past experiences. Most of the time, this process takes place beyond our conscious control. We reconstruct our experiences whenever circumstances dictate, without our being completely aware of it. At the same time, we conveniently stick to those interpretations which justify who or what we are at the moment. But these changes we impose on ourselves do not always play a part in determining our identity. So compared to the original text, is this longer? But then is this easier to process? Okay, so what are some of the words that makes it easy to relate with? So in terms of point of view, it shifted to first person point of view. So what's the first person point of view? Started making use of our, right? Our ideas. We interpret. It's more of like involving the reader in the process, in connecting, right? Sharing ideas, but then involving the reader. So it's more of the identity of the author is here. But quite different with how the original text is structured. So there are so many ways of writing. For example, in this way is a use of first person. Now, here, this is third person. I want you to compare what's the difference. According to Berger, so Berger, though you're hungry, so so people always look back at their past from a different perspective, almost completely unaware that in so doing, they're actually developing a particular understanding or perception of themselves. It is almost as if they are looking back at a mirror by means of which they cast their own reflections. Those reflections that are desirable at present remain unchanged, while others are discarded and changed. It's interesting to note, therefore, that these self-made reflections do not necessarily present individuals with, so on and so forth, with a single picture of themselves. So third-person point of view, but is it still readable compared to data? Somehow simplified, right? Simplified, you can understand the paraphrase better than the original text. That's your role. As a researcher, you do not confuse us, but you try to simplify, contextualize. So who will be your reader? Of course, the panelists, right? So we are we are academicians, right? So whenever you write, so you always think not only the students who will be reading your thesis, but as well the professors who will be reading your work. Nothing. So, check. Okay, so I'm present. Secretary came in, so I'm here. Okay, so burger. So it's always our goal as researchers would be to contextualize our writing so as the audience, for example, professors who will be reading your work, will not be confused. So always try to let us know that you understand what the authors of the books are reading. How do we know that? Here, if you're able to write this way. Okay? So, analysis. So I already mentioned that. First person would be friendly, no? Reader friendly. Third person would distance himself, would always throw the idea to the owner, to the authority. The problem with that is that when you always throw, when you always quote, when you always cite, somehow it's highly reliable, but then when someone, a student like you would be reading that, someone would have a hard time processing. Why? Because it's all authorities, right? What about you? What do you think about the ideas that the authorities would be discussing? So this and but what do your professors here in FU say when you write? Are you allowed to make use of first person or third person? Huh?
Mostly third.
Third person. For me, if you'd be using first person, it's not a problem. What's important is that your idea is logical and relevant. Right? But then they say that if you will be using first person, you're becoming subjective. For me, that is identity. Right? Authorial identity is important. So it's not a point. It's not a point to really argue about. So if you'll be using first person, okay. Third person, it's also okay for me. Now, this is a very practical way of paraphrasing. Very basic. So you use synonyms, right? Expressing the ideas in your own sentence. Then it should be as long as the original information or details are all based on the original. Now, Example, this one, very simple text. Citizens of Ashton are complaining loudly about the problems and inefficiency of the sanitation system because Friday, the sanitation crew removed approximately half the refuse on Center Street. And it wasn't until Saturday that they returned and removed that which remained. That's original. Now, paraphrase. The garbage removal of people of Ashton has been a problem. They are unhappy about the way the garbage collectors have done their job. And for example, only half of the garbage was removed on Friday. They finally came back on Saturday to take the rest of it away. So what were changed? Look at, observe. Citizens of Ashton changed to people of Ashton. Complaining loudly changed to unhappy. Sanitation system, garbage removal, sanitation crew, garbage collectors. What else? What other changes do you see? What other changes? What other changes? They finally came back. So originally that's right. It wasn't until Saturday that they returned and removed that which remained. How did you change that? How did you change that? Sorry, Okay, they finally came on Saturday to take the rest of it away. Okay, so there are ways of stating ideas in your own words. Sometimes you may play with the words, play with the order of the words, but still in terms of length, you still have to follow. Okay, now, this one. I love this quote from Rosenwasser, that's Globe. Conviction of certainty is one of the most certain signs of ignorance and maybe the best operational definition of stupidity. It's kind of strong, correct? Kind of strong, very strong. But then there are ways of how to paraphrase this in a way that it can be scholarly or not that scholarly, formal or not that formal. Example, paraphrase. Let me read that again. A conviction of certainty is one of the most certain signs of ignorance and maybe the best operational definition of stupidity. So here is how it's being paraphrased. Absence of doubt is a clear indication of cluelessness and is perhaps the top way of understanding the lack of intelligence. So if you're reading this, kind of just subtle, right? It's really not that strong. Second, let's try to see the second. A feeling of being right is one of the most reliable indexes of lack of knowledge and may show in action the meaning of mental capacity. So still not that offensive. This one. Being confident that you're correct is a foolproof warning that you don't know what's going on. And this kind of confidence may be an embodiment of foolishness. So this is quite its own thing, correct? Now, for every paraphrases, there will be implication. For every paraphrases, when you state ideas, there will always be implication. Like you're going to conclude ideas, So what are the implications of this? Okay. First, one implication of the sentence is that as people come to know more and more, they feel less confident about what they know. Okay? Another is that ignorance and stupidity are probably not the same thing, though they are often equated. Are they equated, ignorance and stupidity? And third, stupidity is hard to define. Perhaps it can only be defined in practice, operationally, and not as an abstract concept. Okay, now this is the question. So, do you really claim certainty to what you write? So that's the question. So, that's the next question now is, how reliable will be your summary in your research? When you summarize, how reliable? The tendency for students would be to copy. Why? Or patch. There's certain term now for plagiarism, it's patching. You're trying to patch, copy it, and try to patch, make it your own. That's patching. Why? Because you're not confident about your own understanding about a certain assumption, theory, or model that you're discussing. So in fact, that's the reason why I photocopy the reference from De La Salle University. So, sharing it to my students in FE. So, this one will really give us a holistic approach in teaching students how to summarize. It's not like chop suey, right? You get a part here, get another idea here, and then you join ideas, and then after that, it will sound like, or it will taste like a chop suey. Here, you will be taught how to summarize an article in a holistic way. Like in one article, what's the process? There are guidelines on how to summarize. That's why I brought this in order that we're going to start here. So we will start here. So that's it. So thank you. So see you later. Bye.